Hello, welcome to the Progress Podcast Show. I'm your host, Dr. Jim Price, where we share inspirational stories of fabulous people from all over the world, for that matter, sharing their stories. So people see the success and they don't always know the backdrop to how people got to where they're at. So we like to have this show be a part of sharing that journey of understanding how people got to where they're at. And there's always a beginning story to everyone's story. And here we want to use those stories as motivation and inspiration toward the viewers and audience that are watching today. So we have another fabulous guest today. He's the author of the hit book, The Nowist, teaching people about present moment awareness to attract abundance. And he's a producer and a speaker. I'm so glad to have on the show, Billy Mandarino. I'm so happy to have you on the show, Billy. How are you doing today?
Another day in paradise, Dr. Jim. Thank you so much for having me. It's my honor to be of service to your audience, to you. And we're all connected in this world, in this life. And so I'm just about how can I serve people on a higher level.
Absolutely. And that's why we were just talking before we started, like, having a similar purpose, like wanting to inspire others through positive change, was inspiring others to heal, inspiring others to look at themselves in a way where they can think about themselves in a positive light and progress toward that, or whatever their goals and aspirations may be, to know that you can achieve those goals and aspiration if you put yourself in a position where you're feeling good about yourself and understanding deeper levels of yourself instead of the surface level stuff. Sometimes it takes going within to really understand yourself personally. So we were just talking about that before, like how our kind of that aligns in terms of like, my purpose and how your purpose aligns with helping others and having people see a different dimension to themselves and stuff like that. I definitely love the work that you're doing, Billy. I love.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So we're going to kind of get into some of these questions, and I think the first thing we want to know is when do you kind of feel that your journey started, and what kind of maybe influenced that in that way?
We all run into challenges in this life. I've heard this analogy said many times. It says if you want to grow, physically, you have to press up against a lot of resistance. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Guinness Book of World Records has him as the most incredible human physique in the history of the world. And he had to press up against a lot of resistance with those muscles to get him shaped just that way. All of us in our life press up against resistance, but so many people shirk away from it and they shrink to it and they let it kind of overwhelm them and they just don't rise to the challenge. Well, same thing happened to me. I mean, I was overwhelmed in this world as a probably a 20-year-old man having my first kind of existential life crisis and come from a divorced family, 6 kids,
Mm.
had to sit in front of a judge and pick which one I wanted to live with at 7 years old.
Yeah.
Kind of a tough divorce for all of us kids, really tough. So I always found a spiritual path. I've always been a devout, spiritual seeker.
Mm.
I mean, raised Christian, Catholic, Mormon. I've had all these different types of religions in my life.
Mm.
But the truth was, I was always seeking for not just the one, but the oneness of it all.
Yeah.
And I realized that to connect with that oneness in the stress of my life, in the overwhelming times of my life, very early at 7, then at 20, another life-changing experience happened with an accident that changed everything in my life. Not that long ago, 5 years ago, I was paralyzed, had to learn to walk again,
Wow.
talk again. I got Guillain-Barré syndrome from COVID. It almost took me out. So I think about all those collectively because time, as Einstein said, is an illusion.
Mm.
So I think about the beginning, but this illusion that we live in, this time-bound illusion,
Mm.
is this over? I try to overcome that illusion. That's my focus. So living as a nowist, I mean, that came to me early in my 20s. That very first, where I was old enough to know, like, hey, stress is overtaking my life.
Yeah.
My focus is living in that rearview mirror. I don't know about you, Jim. If you're driving your car and you're looking in that rearview mirror, you're going to crash your car every time. Well, I find most people spend their life that way. They're driving forward and they're always looking back.
Mm.
And no wonder there's so much stress and overwhelm and heart disease and all these terrible illnesses that affect people because they haven't figured out how to master the present moment. And so my book is all about teaching people how to live in the present moment as a way of life, as a practice. So through all the stresses and overwhelms of my life, I found that the present moment is the most powerful part of our daily life that we don't spend a lot of time with. But that's where the change is, the awareness of the present moment. And from that is born out so much of the power that you need to go on to get over driving forward, looking in that rearview mirror, being focused, being aware,
Mm.
being connected to the power that you are in this moment, being connected to God in this moment. And that's truly the power that has inspired this book. The book is a spiritual memoir. It's how I found the Nowist to be the most powerful part of my living these principles, living this way. And it's not a religion, it's a practice. It connects to God, but it's a practice of living this way consistently.
Mhm. And I love that you talked about the spirituality connected to everything you do. And I mean, you've been through a lot of traumatic things in your life, and to have the be able to overcome a lot of those things, and have you have bring awareness to yourself through those obstacles and stuff that you faced in life and stuff like that. That speaks true to the idea of spirituality that you speak of. And I'm one definitely to be connected with spirituality. I always say I pray, incorporate prayer into every project I do, whether it's whatever it might be with the books, animation, whatever it might be, podcasting like we're doing here. I always incorporate prayer as a part of that, overall package of everything I do, because I feel like when you do those things, you open up the opportunity and doors for good things to happen. And sometimes I always say people will pray, but the important thing is to not always just pray when things are bad, pray when things are good too. Sometimes people will just pray when things are going bad, and then they forget to say thanks afterwards. And I think that's what I think that spirituality really spoke volumes to me.
Amen, Jim. I love that you spoke about prayer because before I've been on hundreds of podcasts, and every time before I get on a podcast, I pray. I open myself up, not for my words to come through, but for the words to come through that someone might be watching or listening to this 10 years from now, who knows, 100 years from now. But in this moment, getting out of the egoic construct of what I want to say and what I want to, instead of just being open to what's supposed to come through. And I think people with prayer, they lose that connection with the feeling. And if you look back to the Dead Sea Scrolls in those caves in Afghanistan in 1947, those Dead Sea Scrolls were mostly the book of Isaiah. And the book of Isaiah was talking about prayer as a feeling. And I think we miss that in our prayers. We get caught up in the words, we repeat it, it's a mantra, there's a mudra. We constantly get caught up in the repetition, but we forget about the feeling of the prayer. That's the energy, that's the vacuum that brings God, that brings that universal spiritual connection back to source to help us overcome these tough things in our life. It's prayer as a feeling that's most important.
Absolutely. I mean, and I think a lot of people they lose sight of that and stuff like that, and how important that can be to your life when you incorporate those things. And that's all a part of self-care too. When you talk about, the ideas of prayer, that consists of the self-care too. You pray, you do the self-care things to bring more awareness to yourself and understanding to yourself. I mean, so those things are so important. All those things are so important. So, I mean, you've already talked about a lot of obstacles that you faced in your journey of success. Probably what was probably out of your all those experiences, what the biggest obstacle that you could say, well, that's the actual biggest obstacle. I know you mentioned the COVID and things, but for you, like personally, what probably was the biggest obstacle that really had you look at things in a different perspective?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yes, I had some challenges in my life, but in 2021, going through that Guillain-Barré syndrome, that full paralysis, and being in a hospital 21 days,
Wow.
and been studying all of this and teaching this and done live events and I've done, spoke all over the world and audio books and the book and the courses. But God put me in this situation and I learned so much. And to answer your question fully and from the highest part of me, that serves your audience. The truth is, in that obstacle, in that confinement, I mean, I'm claustrophobic. And when I was fully paralyzed, my wife and daughter had to carry me down the stairs, put me in the car, and it was COVID. I don't know if you remember, everything was locked down. So they
Yes.
basically put my floppy body in a wheelchair. And I had to sit there in the rain because there's 90 COVID patients just like in this COVID ward of this hospital here in Santa Barbara. And eventually they get me inside and they put me in an MRI tube for 4.5 hours because they did not know what was wrong with me. And they figured they would take, and that's what it takes in case anybody ever gets an MRI and it takes 4.5 hours. That's because that's how much time it takes to get every picture of your body.
Yeah.
And so in that time, I had to learn how to pray, chant, sing, visualize. I went quantum is what I call going quantum. I literally was out of my body. And I learned that through meditation, through prayer, through connecting to the highest part of me, the God realized self in me. That's how I could get out of that claustrophobic state because I was also terrified because I was paralyzed and I didn't know what was wrong with me. The doctors didn't know what was wrong with me. But in that paralysis, the biggest takeaway and the biggest shift that I had is I realized this is not happening to me. This is happening for me. and I'm going to use this experience. I'm going to make this my spiritual practice. And I made that the paralysis, that tragic kind of overwhelming opportunity I had to change my life for the better and to use this as a spiritual practice. And the next day I woke up from this long long night, and I still was paralyzed, but there were these two doctors in the bottom of my bed, and they both said, "Hey, we don't know what's wrong with you. We think you have COVID,
Yeah.
Guillain-Barré syndrome caused by COVID, not from
Yeah.
a vaccine, because vaccines didn't exist at this time." And they spinal tapped me to prove it. And I
Yeah.
said, okay, now they know what they're going to do. I'm going to use this spiritual experience, a spiritual journey that I'm going to go on, this test, and I'm going to serve everybody that serves me first.
Yeah.
So the doctors would come, and I can't move, my arms can't move. I would ask them how they're doing, how's their relationships going, how are their finances, how are they doing? And they would all, the doctors, the nurses, the physical therapists, the recreational therapists, the speech therapists, they would all kind of play the game with me.
Mm. Yeah.
And by serving other people, I got better faster. And that was the biggest takeaway. Not the victim mentality, but how can I serve, not what's in it for me?
Wow, that's a tremendous testimony in itself, just to having you overcome. I mean, a lot of people just, they get in situations that's similar like that, and they just, they just don't know where to go. They have no answers, and they lose hope and all this stuff. And I mean, you're definitely a living testimony of overcoming.
And I'm
Uh,
not saying, Jim, that it was easy. It was not easy, but I did recognize, and this is the key for any change. You've probably known this for years, that awareness is step
mhm,
one. I
mhm,
was aware that this was happening for me, not to me.
yeah,
And I've done so much practice spiritual work, just work on a higher part of myself, the higher dimension, that I knew that this was not going to take, I'm not going out this way. I'm going to use this as a spiritual practice to serve others. So ultimately, that takeaway, and I got better faster. I had some miraculous healings. I got
yeah,
out of there, after 21 days. I was walking with the cane. 6 weeks later, I was back into my life when the doctors thought it would be about a year,
yeah,
because Guillain-Barré syndrome means that the myelin that covers your nerves
mm,
is all eaten because my immune system attacked itself. So that has to grow like your fingernail, but it grew fast, and I was back in it. So I knew that it was connected to part of that awareness that I had, that this is what's going to take to heal. And the mind-body connection is not just a woo-woo science thing or a
yeah,
spiritual pseudoscience thing. Is real. My
yeah.
mind and my body connected and healed in a quantum speed.
Wow, that's an amazing story. And thanks for being open and being open like that to share that aspect of what your experiences have been through. And now people see the success, and like I say, people don't always know the story and the journey behind the success. They only see the glitz and the glamour and the glory and all the lights and everything else, but they don't ever really see the backdrop of what the steps were to get to that point, the things, the obstacles that were overcome, the hurdles in life that were overcome, the things that were endured during the process of getting to the next stage, getting to the next part, getting to that next step and everything. So that's such a tremendous story right there. So yes, that definitely answered everything. And it's a blessing that, to be able to share this and be with you and see you, motivating others and using your platform to be able to inspire others to make it through those hurdles and obstacles that they face in their lives too. It's definitely inspirational, Billy. Definitely.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim. My
So,
pleasure.
yeah. So I also want to know, the audience wants to know too, what probably would you feel is your greatest achievement or something achievement that's really been dear to you in terms of your journey to get where you are? Maybe achievement that you feel like connected to the most that really brings you pride and joy and help it in terms of helping others.
Do you know what? It's so weird. And it's a great question. And I don't always answer it this way. But what I've found recently, I've been studying this. I mean, the book came out almost 10 years. I mean, I started working on this about 10 years ago. The book came out in 2018, but prior to that, I was still speaking, talking and doing events and just serving people and trying to convince them and cajole them and inspire them into this idea
Yeah.
of spending time in the present moment, not so much in linearity, but in the vertical. And when that past future time meets the vertical divine timeline where those cross,
Yeah.
that's the now. And what's happened to me just 6 months ago, it's so interesting, that it comes down to this simple thing. But I had a kind of a quantum shift. In the Zen tradition, they call it a satori, they call it an epiphany.
Yeah.
I had another one, and it just happened a few months ago. And it's as simple, and the audience and everybody might miss it because it's so simple. It seems so obvious.
Mm.
But I learned that being peaceful, right? We try to be peaceful. We have prayer. We go to church, we meditate, we go to our ashrams, we have our mantras and our mudras, we get into these peaceful states. But how often are you being peace?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what has shifted for me in the last few months is I've learned for the first time in my life what it's like to be peace, not to be peaceful.
Yeah.
That is honestly, out of all these years of studying and working, and I'm 58 years old,
Mm.
and all my life I've been a spiritual seeker.
Mm.
I've had the spiritual hunger that's never satified.
Yeah.
I'm constantly, I feel like we're always growing. We're here in this earth school to learn and to bring glory to God and to be more like God. But what I've realized is I was doing the things to be peaceful,
Mm.
but now I've learned how to be peace.
Yeah.
And it's such a huge shift when you think about it, because being peace, means that you can get out of your thinking mind.
Yeah.
This great teacher from the East said, "Don't analyze your thoughts. Don't follow your thoughts. Find the thinker, and the mind dissolves."
Mm.
So I was analyzing thoughts. I was following these practices, and even in the meditations in my book are great. They help you. But when you can learn to be peace, which means you surrender to all of it,
Yeah.
and you can get your mind out of the way, and you can enter that peaceful now, that present moment that's so full of everything that you need. But
Mm.
when you get the mind out and stop thinking, just be peace. Wow, avalanches of abundance show up in your life, emotionally, socially, spiritually, financially,
Mm.
physically. I mean, it's amazing. So that's been the recent shift,
Mm.
to say, it doesn't seem sexy, it doesn't seem credible, but being peace instead of trying to be peaceful has been the quantum shift in my life.
Absolutely. And I resonate with that. The peace, like people sometimes don't have a lot of peace in their lives.
Oh
And
yeah.
it brings a lot of turmoil and chaos and, being able to understand themselves to get to that point of having true peace, within themselves and true peace in their lives. It does. It just branches off into every aspect of your life when you have real true peace within yourself. It's almost like contagiously just branches off into everything else. And all of a sudden, you're having all these things happening, doors opening and opportunities presenting themselves. And you're like, wow. And that is all about that inner peace, that
It is
true
that inner
peace.
peace, and that's what we all search for. Everyone, one-on-one clients that I work with, we have this 12-week program called Becoming Your Infinite Self.
Mm.
And at the end of the 12 weeks, that's usually the focus. Like,
Yeah.
can the client, can the student, can they find the inner peace as a part of their day, and not just this 20-minute, 30-minute, 2-hour meditation they could do in the morning or the night, but can you find it throughout your day? That's why being a Nowist to me is so important, because to do that means you're doing it consistently, you're being peace consistently, which means you're out of linearity, you're out of chronological time, you're in that divine time. That
Mhm.
crossification is the now. You're entering that more consistently throughout your life, which means when you put your attention on something, when you are being peace instead of trying to be peaceful, then you put your intention on, hey, I want to attract a relationship in my life. I want some financial abundance. I'm ready to be healed of this disease.
Yeah.
And you attach yourself to this present moment like it's a detachment and an attachment at the same time,
Yeah.
because you are just being peace. You surrender, almost like you're in water. How do you experience water? You can't grasp at water to try and swim. You have to be one with it. You have to glide with it. So being peace is very much like that.
Oh my goodness. You're dropping some real gems of understanding this stuff. I mean, it's just so wonderful. Like, the audience definitely can resonate with this and connect with this and be inspired by, the story that you're sharing and how you are connecting it to the ideas of peace and everything like that. It's so wonderful, in that way. And we also want to know, like, what are your future projects that you're kind of getting yourself into, future projects and things like that?
Well, I am so fired up, inspired, excited. I don't believe in motivation. I think motivation is like, I got a goal. I don't believe in goals either, by the way. It's like, I got this thing, I want to do it, and it's going to take this long, and I got to raise this much money, I have this much time, and I got to get done by this date. I mean, I believe in what's called thinking from the end instead of about the end. So we're working on our first feature-length film, and it's a movie about getting out of unrealized trauma. Two-thirds of the planet, Dr. Jim, have an unrealized trauma, mostly childhood traumas that they don't even know they have, because it's in their subconscious mind. It's dissociated. Yet it's showing up as cancer, divorce, bankruptcy, all these terrible situations are showing up in people's life because this unrealized trauma is in the background sabotaging their opportunities in their life. So the
Yeah.
movie's about this character who's coming through this trauma. His wife is running for the mayor of Santa Barbara. He's a local real estate professional. He's got a 16-year-old daughter, and she's running for mayor, and he's getting emerged. There's a serial killer in the neighborhood, and it's just he's becoming aware of this, but he doesn't know what it is. It's that trauma that's in the background of most people's life. So if you can tell a compelling story, Steve Jobs, one of his most famous quotes is, "The storytellers are the most powerful people on the planet. They set the trends and they set the culture." So we're looking to tell a compelling story, so much so that it will help people awaken to this trauma and want to do the work so they can bring it to the light. And it's about shining light on this unrealized trauma in the world.
Oh my goodness. I mean, that's going to be an inspirational movie. And, I always loved, material like that, that's inspirational and have you can look at things from a different perspective and go through the ideas of how to overcome trauma and things of that nature. So I'm definitely going to be looking forward to that. And thank you for sharing that. I mean, our audience is definitely going to be looking forward to that too. And I know it does take time for a lot of those things. So
It does. I mean, we've got a pretty big budget. We've raised some funds already. And if you go to my website, which is billymandarino.com,
yeah.
that's the main that links out to all our social media. We've got, 600 free videos on our YouTube channel, which if you go to billymandarino.com, it links out. But you also can click on For Now Film, which is a tab on billymandarino.com. And you can look at a trailer. You can see the song that my band has produced, which is the trailer song. It gives people an idea what we're doing. People can support this. This is really a movie slash mission, not just a movie.
Wow, you are really how they say running all cylinders with that right there.
I tell you, this project has got everything. I'm so inspired by it. My wife and daughter, they're on board. I mean, because crazy dad, he's just got another idea to help people in this world and help people on a bigger scale. Because we've
Mhm.
done live events. We've done live events. My band's crews produced music. We've performed. We've tried to inspire. We've inspired people and got communities together. But if you can tell a compelling story and get it on the big screen and the small screen,
Yeah.
you can change a lot of lives and serve a lot of people. So I'm all about what's the biggest impact I can make, and I feel like this movie is the next thing.
Wow, such a compelling and just inspirational story all around. This has definitely been a fabulous conversation in terms of healing, dealing with trauma and understanding trauma, connecting to prayer, spirituality. This conversation has had a plethora of real inspirational, motivational tools that the audience can really gravitate to and use in their lives to be able to inspire and improve their lives and move toward whatever stage that they're trying to move toward in terms of their inspirations and goals and whatever else they're trying to do. So Billy, this has been tremendous conversation. I definitely want to make sure reiterate to the audience how to connect, because I know you have the book as well, and we just want to know as the audience, just repeat kind of like the how to get in contact, the audience can connect with
Absolutely.
you.
Please, everyone, please go to my name. It's Billy Mandarino. It's spelled like the Mandarin orange with the O on the end, Mandarino,
Mhm.
billymandarino.com. And it links out to everything, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, everything, a YouTube channel. But our YouTube channel has really got a powerful series of videos. We got almost 19,000 subscribers to our YouTube channel, and it's serving the world. It's serving people, giving them these concepts, giving them stories and ideas and practices and ways to get out of stress and overwhelm and anxiety. Just to really a new spark in your life. It can happen. It all happens in the present moment.
Wow, that is fabulous. And I'm sure our audience, definitely have enjoyed this conversation as I have too. So, I mean, we're just going to always push forward to be positive, more mindful people, thinking about the best things we can do in our lives to improve our lives any way we can. And that's going to continue to be our mission to bring guests on that are inspirational, just like Billy and his story sharing with us. So it's always a blessing to have guests who understand about the healing journey and try motivated to have other people want to heal themselves and motivate themselves in that way. So thank you for having you today, Billy. And
Oh, I'm blessed by you, Dr. Jim. I appreciate your audience. I appreciate you so much, my friend. And it's just an honor to get this message out to more people. And I appreciate you having me on your show today.
absolutely. And please, all those watching this podcast, please subscribe to the channel and everything like that. And, we're going to continue to push purpose and prayer and all the things necessary to take the next step in your life. So in the meantime, this is the Purpose Progress podcast show with your host, Dr. Price. And we'll see you next time. Stay blessed.